Okay, tip number 3 about stress. Oh no, things are horrible. Oh no, things are good. I feel really good. Well, guess what? That's all relative. Okay? I remember a pastor friend of mine told me one time, I had lunch with him, I said, so how's your day going? He goes, well, I just had 2 back-to-back meetings. He was in youth ministry, and he had, high schoolers, and he said 2 back-to-back meetings with 2 different girls, and their pain level was off the chart. One of them, so much, her family is going through some awful stuff, and he said she cried, and everything was doom and gloom. He said, and it's just terrible. I got to go help the family and this, that, and the other. He said, but what was really striking to me was an hour after that, I had another girl come into my office, and she was in the same amount of pain, exact same amount of pain. The future's awful. Everything's over. It's horrible. You know what her issue was? She wasn't getting her braces off in time for prom. Okay, so what does that tell us? One of the things we got to look at stress is you've got to audit what has the ability to stress you out. Because what happens is the stress system is a reactive one, and it goes through these filters, and it tells you when something is a danger and when it's not. And sometimes we can have an all or nothing stress button, and that has a lot to do with the way we perceive things and think about things. And that's why you see 2 people in the same situation, and one of them goes, oh no, the sky is falling, the other goes, come on, it's not that big a deal. Because they are able to appropriately align their stress responses to actually what's happening. So I want you to look at some of the stuff in your head about what are you going to decide to get stressed about, okay? When the pencils aren't in a row, does that stress you out? And we call that OCD. That's not anxiety. It's a stress issue, right? Or is it, I'm not going to get stressed out about that. If the building's on fire, then I'll get activated, right? So I want you to put down the things that are stressing you out and ask yourself, why am I so stressed out about that? Because generally what happens is you've never done that to begin with, right? And the stress button is just hitting itself. And you've got to listen to the thoughts in your head, and you got to be able to say, you know what, that's just not worth worrying about. That's not a big deal. That's not, Jesus said this over and over and over. Over and over and over and over and over. The bottom line is, in the world you have tribulation, but take courage, I've overcome. As long as we still belong to him, what can man do to us, right? That's the bottom line. But there's a lot of stuff in between there, too, that you worry about. The Pharisees were getting all stressed out about, as Jesus said, you worry about all this stuff, and dill and mint and cumin and tithe, but you don't worry about the weightier measures of the law, like justice and mercy and faithfulness. So I want you to think about in your life. I've got a friend who had 3, 4 little kids, like under 5, and they were over at the house, and he heard one of them screaming, and he looked over, and I said, aren't you going to go help? And he goes, wait a minute. He said, nah. He said, hey, I got 4 of them under 5. I don't get up if I don't see blood. And he went back in this conversation. He had kind of learned to right-size stuff. And so I want you to ask yourself, are you right-sizing what you're getting stressed about? And then I want you to look at what's in your head about how you talk to yourself about it. Oh, this is awful. Really? Come on, is it awful? I was in an executive team meeting the other day where the team was all stressed out. And one of the guys said to the other one about his department, the way you guys handled this out in the field, it was a bloodbath. And the guy goes, wait a minute, stop. A bloodbath? Come on. Let's watch our language here. It wasn't a bloodbath. A few people were inconvenienced, and let's not hit the panic button for every little thing. Remember, you gotta get your brain trained. I had a brother-in-law who was a Navy SEAL. He'd jump out of an airplane 40,000 feet and go through the oxygen level and go board a ship and take down a bunch of people and get appropriately stressed. I would be freaking out. Our capacity to deal with stress is what we need to be working on, as well as eliminating a lot of the toxic stress around us. So right size it in your head, but listen to the way you talk to yourself. We'll get amped up. Just automatically your system will get amped up. Learn to be a thermostat and say, it's not that big a deal. It's not awful. If that happens, I can cope with it. That's where lowered stress comes from. It's a lot of times the interpretation of what's going on around us and how bad it actually is.